we break down horror movies and rate them on how scary I think they are. In today's episode, we're going over the 2020 Indonesian horror film, May the Devil Take You To. This sequel is once again directed by Timo Tjahjanto and continues the story of Alfie and Nara after the events of the first film. I'll be going over the events that take place throughout the film, while our trusty scare score percentage on the bottom left will be going up based on how effective the scares are throughout the film. But without further ado, sit back and relax and join me as we explore May the Devil Take You To and tally up the scare score. Our movie begins with the woman named Gaddis sitting alone in her apartment. Her friend Dewi knocks at the door, and this cool shot of her looking through the peephole actually foreshadows future events. Gaddis reveals several bruises on her body, which she claims to have obtained from a man who is supposedly dead. Dewi assures her that he has been dead for a long time, asking if Gaddis remembers that day. She points into the empty living room and says that he is staring at her right now. As Dewi shuts the door, we see a pretty devious smile on Gaddis's face. While Gaddis sleeps, Dewi speaks to a man named Budi over the phone. The man who Gaddis claims assaulted her is named Ayub and has supposedly been dead for 15 years. On Gaddis's desk, we see several news articles which reference the events of the previous film. As Dewi looks at a photo of a man surrounded by children, a ghostly figure appears in the window directly behind her. The next morning, Gaddis finds Dewi's severely mutilated body stuck to the ceiling with the satanic sigil drawn in her blood. We are then reunited with Alfie and Nara, who are still recovering from the events that occurred 2 years ago. Nara is still mourning the death of her family, and Alfie says they should try and move on. Yeah, I don't think she can ever move on from this, or this, and definitely not this. While in bed, Alfie begins playing with her light by turning it on and off. This was an obvious gateway into a jump scare, which still managed to catch me off guard. It's a jump scare, so I won't give it too much points. However, there was a decent amount of tension that still made it a pretty decent scare. Though what boggles my mind is that she continues to play with the light. Alfie wakes up to several masked individuals in her apartment. She gets a few good hits off with a bat, but is suddenly electrocuted with a taser. Alfie and Nara are captured and driven to an old abandoned orphanage. A haunted house setting isn't exactly original, but if you're going to use it, it better be creepy. And this one absolutely is. Alfie is introduced to Leo, Budi, and Janita, who used to live in the orphanage. The orphanage was ran by a man named Ayub and his wife, who didn't have any children of their own. After his wife passed away, Ayub became abusive towards the children and turned their lives into a living nightmare. Alfie realizes that the children killed Ayub by burning him alive. Alfie is drawn by a creepy doll into Ayub's old bedroom. We see Ayub's spirit stalking her, and she encounters him at the bottom of the stairs. At this point, it's obvious that Ayub is the main antagonist of the film, which is its biggest problem. Unfortunately, he just isn't scary and is a big downgrade from the dark priestess of the first film. Alfie is reunited with Nara and meets the rest of Ayub's children, Gaddis, Marta, and Christy. Janita tells Alfie that they mean no harm, but they are in desperate need of her help. They believe that Ayub has come back from the dead, seeking vengeance, and has already killed their friend Dewi. Christy is still skeptical about the situation, saying that Gaddis has always been strange and that she was the only one to witness Dewi's death. They show Alfie a black Bible containing several satanic imageries and a drawing of the dark priestess. Budi says that Ayub was given the Bible by a mysterious woman, whom we see is the priestess from the previous film. The priestess has less than 1 minute of screen time and still manages to be scarier than Ayub. Though it's never confirmed, it's possible that Ayub became involved with black magic to try and resurrect his late wife. Everyone but Christy and Nara head into the cellar, where they see the chalk outline of where Ayub passed away. The group communicates using walkie-talkies because their cell phones don't work at the orphanage. Marta says that Ayub was worshipping the ancient demon of enlightenment and immortality named Moloch. They believe that Ayub was planning to sacrifice them all to Moloch, possibly to bring his late wife back to life. She says that the curse placed on them can only be reversed by Alfie, who escaped the devil himself. Alfie cuts her thumb and places it on a spot in the Black Bible. She begins to freak out and sees a flashback of Ayub's death at the hands of the children. The moment right before his death is probably the only time where Ayub appears genuinely creepy. They set Ayub on fire and he vows that they will never be rid of him. His body is later discovered by the authorities. During this scene, there seems to be a mannequin in the background that slightly tips over, but is sitting straight up in the next frame. I don't think it's a dead body because we can also see it in the scene where Ayub dies, which was 15 years ago. Alfie suddenly passes out and the room turns freezing cold. Upstairs, Christy's reading a book titled Debunking Spirits and Ghosts, reiterating that she doesn't believe in the supernatural. She tries contacting the group using the walkie-talkie, but instead, Leo hears Ayub's voice on the other end saying Christy now belongs to him. The cellar door slams shut and chairs begin violently flying across the room. A circular saw decides to join the party and narrowly misses Janita. Alfie seems to be the only one who can see Ayub's spirit directly above her. He grabs her by the throat and viciously slams her face into the concrete multiple times, killing her. Hearing all the commotion, Christy opens the cellar door and is quickly possessed by Ayub. She transforms into a deadite-like demon and begins chasing Nara. Demon Christy is absolutely relentless in the scariest part of the movie. Just hearing the speed in which Christy crawled up those stairs was truly terrifying. Nara locks herself in a room and Demon Christy begins bashing her head against the door. She tries her hardest to get in and gets pretty acrobatic with it too. She not only manages to burst into the room, but briefly knocks herself out in the process. Demon Christy gets back up and creepily searches for Nara inside the bedroom. Actress Lutetia Kalakantai gives such a great performance here. Her movement and physicality combined with the amazing makeup effects make Demon Christy the highlight of the film. She finds Nara hiding on top of the closet and grabs her by the neck. Nara pushes herself off the wall, which causes the closet to fall on top of Christy. Alfie rushes into the room holding a pipe and bashes her over the head multiple times, killing the possessed Christy. Alfie blames Marta for having her recite the spell which was supposed to revoke Ayub's curse. However, it seems that the spell only managed to unleash Ayub and make things worse. Alfie says that she has done all they ask and that she and Nara are leaving. Booty says that he'll drive her to the nearest train station, but when he tries to start the car, he discovers it has been sabotaged. Booty exits the car and the ghost of Lakshmi briefly appears. Alfie finds herself alone back inside the house and encounters demon Lakshmi. The way she slowly pokes her head out is super unsettling. She rapidly crawls backwards towards Alfie in what is a brief but very effective scare scene. Alfie then comes across her father Lesmana, who warns Alfie that the devil is still after her soul. Ayub suddenly appears behind her and grabs her arm, which leaves a burn mark after she wakes up. From the nightmare, the group get back together but notice Gaddis is missing, so Leo goes looking for her. While looking at the Black Bible, Alfie remembers Gaddis biting on her bandaged thumb. She looks at their old picture with Ayub and notices Gaddis sitting on his lap and holding his hand. She references Stockholm Syndrome and believes that Gaddis began to feel affectionate towards Ayub. We see that Alfie is right when Gaddis locks Leo in the kitchen, just like Ayub did when he was a child. He sees a younger version of himself banging on the door and probably doesn't remember being that creepy. As he tries contacting Booty, Christy's body falls out of the freezer and crawls away. He is attacked by Christy but manages to fight her off with a couple of headbutts. As Leo falls to the ground laughing hysterically, he is suddenly grabbed by Ayub and dragged into the cellar to his death. Gaddis lucks the group inside of a room and dresses herself up for a pretty dark and twisted scene. Gaddis lays on Ayub's bed and is spiritually impregnated with his spirit. The group escapes the room and encounters the now possessed goddess in the hallway. Goddess reveals that this was her plan all along. She tricked the others into thinking she was Ayub's victim so they could help her resurrect him. As Alfie already had ties to the devil himself, Goddess needed her to read the spell which would release Ayub's spiritual form back into the world. Booty tries to burn the Black Bible, but Goddess uses her powers to stop him. She tries to use her powers on Alfie, but it seems she is somehow immune to them. Alfie manages to get on top of Goddess and get a few punches in, but she uses her powers to launch an unconscious Booty into her. Martha confronts Goddess, saying that she tricked her, revealing that she knew about the plan all along, but was deceived about its true purpose. We see a flashback of Goddess and Martha with Ayub, and thank goodness that the child actress is wearing glasses, so we can clearly establish that it's Martha. Goddess and Martha's close relationship was hinted at in the beginning of the film by some photos in Goddess's apartment. Martha tries to stab Goddess in the back, but the knife is driven into her stomach. Goddess launches Martha into Alfie and locks the pair in a burning room. In her dying breath, Martha tells Alfie to read a spell in the book which will help her defeat Ayub and Goddess, and that with great power comes great responsibility, or something like that. Goddess tries going after Nara, who sticks the taser straight into her mouth, though it isn't enough to stop her. Alfie finds a spell in the surprisingly user-friendly Black Bible, which seems to illustrate how a Jedi obtains the Force. Alfie uses her new powers to launch a desk through the door and break free. We then get a pretty badass shot of Alfie, who looks like she's about to join the Fire Nation. Alfie brings Booty outside and goes back into the house to look for Nara. She sees Lismana and Lakshmi sitting in front of a TV with a creepy smile across their faces. She sees Nara calling for help from inside the television, followed by Ayub taunting Alfie. This scene really reminded me of the Further from Insidious. In the Further-like dimension, she comes across Leo with his face torn off and the young versions of Christy and Janita, who then turn into demons. Alfie finds Nara in Ayub's bedroom, and Martha's ghost rises from underneath a bedsheet. Martha turns into Ayub, who says that Alfie belongs to him now. Neither am I, Alfie. In fact, I haven't been for the entire film. Goddess shows back up looking very demonic with those yellow eyes. Her dramatic heel turn was hinted at in the very beginning of the film when Devi comes knocking on her door. Her eye looks very similar to her demonic form when looking through the peephole, which was very cool. Also, this wouldn't be a demonic possession movie without throwing up on somebody's face. Goddess sticks her disgusting tongue into her mouth, but Alfie manages to stab it with a knife. Alfie, trying to get her magic to work, looks pretty Doctor Strange-like. Just as Goddess is about to devour her soul, Alfie is able to launch the saw into the back of her skull, though this doesn't kill her and only manages to piss her off even more. She wouldn't have missed if she allocated some points into marksmanship instead of putting them all into black magic. They take their satanic beef to the front of the burning house, where Booty runs Goddess over with his car. Goddess seems to have lost all her powers and lays on the ground bloodied and helpless, in a pretty cool and disturbing scene. Ayub exits Goddess's body by bursting straight out of her stomach, killing her. He rushes towards Booty, but Alfie pushes him out of the way and lets him possess her instead. Not wanting Ayub to take control of her body, she takes her own life by jamming a knife straight into her heart. This entire scene is so well made. Everything from the acting to the music swelling in the background make this a very emotional climax. Alfie wakes up in the spiritual plane and is confronted by Molak himself. Since Ayub was unsuccessful in pleasing Molak, he is now stuck in eternal damnation. Molak tells Alfie that he will not allow her to die by suicide, as her soul does not belong to her and that only he can claim it. He says that her soul belongs to him and kindly gives her a one-up mushroom. Alfie comes back to life and embraces Nara as Booty sees the souls of his foster siblings waving him goodbye. In the film's final scene, Alfie takes possession of the Black Bible, knowing that it will be a powerful tool in the battles to come. Alfie, Nara, and Booty drive away from the orphanage, but not before Alfie can roast Booty about his beat-down car as the movie ends, and that, ladies and gentlemen, was May the Devil Take You To. While definitely not as good as the first film, this was still a pretty solid sequel. I really enjoyed the continuation of Alfie's story, although I wasn't a huge fan of the Ayub plotline. Ayub was a pretty weak antagonist who wasn't scary in the least bit, which was a real shame. The film had a decent number of scares spread throughout, but none of them managed to reach the terrifying levels of the first film. The scares in this film felt tonally different than the previous film and a lot more over the top, giving May the Devil Take You 2 a fairly decent scare score of 53%. The scariest scene in the film was when Demon Christie chased down and hunted Nara upstairs. This was a truly nail-biting and intense sequence that comes the closest to achieving the scare factor of the first film. May the Devil Take You 2 was a solid sequel that I definitely recommend to fans of the first film and is currently streaming on Shudder. A third film in the series has been announced, and I look forward to seeing the next chapter in Alfie and Nara's story. But as always, I hope you all enjoyed the video, my friends. Thank you all for tuning in, and I cannot wait to see y'all right back here in the Horror Mine. Y'all stick around.